The day their annual neighborhood BBQ was shut down by their HOA, the Jones family thought their summer was ruined. But when a suspicious fire breaks out at the HOA president's house, the community realizes there's more to this story than anyone imagined. Now, with the president under investigation, tensions are rising, and the Jones family finds themselves at the center of it all. Sarah Jones sighed as she looked out the window at the empty lot next door. Just yesterday, their annual neighborhood BBQ had been in full swing, the sounds of laughter and sizzling burgers filling the air. But then the HOA president, Martha, had stormed over, her face flushed with anger. "This party is in direct violation of our covenants," Martha had shouted, waving a stack of papers. "You didn't submit the proper forms, and your grill is too close to the property line. I'm shutting this down immediately." Sarah's husband, Mike, had tried to reason with her, but Martha was unyielding. Within minutes, the party had been forced to end, leaving the Jones family and their neighbors disappointed and confused. "I can't believe she did that," Sarah said, shaking her head. "This was our one chance to really get to know everyone this summer. Now they all probably think we're the bad guys." Mike put a comforting arm around her. "I know, honey, but we'll figure something out. Martha can't just shut down our neighborhood events whenever she feels like it." Just then, their teenage son, Ethan, burst into the room, his eyes wide. "You guys, you're not going to believe this. There's smoke coming from Martha's house." Without hesitation, the family rushed outside, joining their neighbors who had also noticed the plume of black smoke rising in the distance. As they hurried toward Martha's house, Sarah felt a knot of dread in her stomach. Whatever was happening, it couldn't be good. When they reached the scene, they found the house engulfed in flames, firefighters working frantically to extinguish the blaze. Neighbors gathered, whispering in hushed tones, some casting suspicious glances in the Jones family's direction. Sarah felt panic rising in her chest. Do you think someone did this on purpose?" Mike shook his head. "I don't know, but we'd better stay out of it. The last thing we need is to get blamed for this." Ethan, however, wasn't so sure. "But what if it has something to do with the BBQ? I mean, Martha was pretty pissed about that." Sarah shot him a warning look. "Ethan, don't even go there. We don't know anything, and the last thing we need is to get mixed up in some kind of investigation." As the flames continued to rage, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much larger, more sinister story. The next morning, the Jones family watched in stunned silence as the news crews descended on their quiet neighborhood. Reporters jockeyed for position, shouting questions at anyone who might have information of the mysterious fire at the HOA president's house. "I can't believe this is happening," Sarah said, wringing her hands. "All we wanted was to have a nice neighborhood BBQ, and now this." Mike put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We don't know anything, remember. The best thing we can do is stay out of it and let the police handle it." But Ethan wasn't so easily convinced. "Come on, Dad. You really think it's just a coincidence that Martha's house burned down right after she shut down our party? There's got to be more to it than that." Before Mike could respond, a familiar voice called out from the crowd of onlookers. "Hey, you guys. What's going on?" It was their neighbor, Mrs. Finnegan, a kind, elderly woman who had always been friendly with the Jones family. She hurried over, her eyes wide with concern. "I heard about the fire on the news," she said breathlessly. "Do you have any idea what happened?" Sarah shook her head. "No, we don't know anything. We were just as surprised as everyone else when we saw the smoke this morning." Mrs. Finnegan frowned. "Well, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but you know how Martha has been lately. Always making a fuss about every little thing. I wouldn't be surprised if she had something to do with this." Ethan's eyes widened. "That's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, she was so mad about the BBQ. Maybe she did it to get back at us." Sarah shot him a warning glare. "Ethan, We can't go around making accusations. That's not going to help anything. But Mrs. Finnegan nodded thoughtfully. You know, he might be onto something. I've heard a few other neighbors say the same thing. And did you notice how quickly the fire department showed up? Almost like they were already on their way. Mike cleared his throat. Look, we appreciate your concern, Mrs. Finnegan, but we really don't want to get involved in any of this. The last thing we need is to be dragged into some kind of investigation. The elderly woman sighed. I understand, dear, but if there's one thing I've learned, it's that you can't always stay out of these things, no matter how much you might want to. Sometimes, the truth has a way of finding you, whether you're ready for it or not. As Mrs. Finnegan turned and made her way back to her own home, the Jones family was left with a growing sense of unease. The pieces were starting to fall into place, and it was becoming increasingly clear that they might be at the center of a much larger and more dangerous web of secrets and lies. The days following the fire at Martha's house were tense and unsettling for the Jones family. The police had questioned them extensively, along with several other neighbors, but so far, no arrests had been made. The investigation was ongoing, and the uncertainty was wearing on them all. I just can't stop thinking about it, Sarah said one evening as they sat at the dinner table. What if they really do think we had something to do with this? Mike reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Honey, we've been completely honest with the police. They have no reason to suspect us. Ethan, who had been unusually quiet, spoke up. But Mom, you have to admit, it does kind of look suspicious. I mean, we were the ones who had our party shut down, and now the HOA president's house is on fire. It's not exactly a coincidence. Sarah shot him a stern look. Ethan, I thought we agreed not to speculate about this. We don't know anything for sure, and the last thing we need is to get dragged into some kind of witch hunt. I'm just saying, Ethan replied, shrugging. If the shoe were on the other foot, don't you think the police would be looking at us pretty closely? Before the conversation could escalate, the doorbell rang, and Sarah quickly excused herself to answer it. When she opened the door, she was surprised to find Mrs. Finnegan standing on the porch, a serious expression on her face. Mrs. Finnegan, what's wrong? Sarah asked, ushering the elderly woman inside. I'm so sorry to bother you, dear, Mrs. Finnegan said, wringing her hands. But I've been doing some digging, and I think you and your family need to know something. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. What is it? What have you found out? Mrs. Finnegan took a deep breath. It's about Martha. I've been talking to some of the other neighbors, and it seems that she's been, embezzling funds from the HOA. Sarah's eyes widened. What? Are you sure? The older woman nodded solemnly. I'm afraid so. Apparently, she's been skimming money off the top for years, using it to fund her own personal projects and luxuries. And the fire at her house? Well, let's just say the fire department has been looking into it, and they're not entirely convinced it was an accident. Sarah felt a wave of nausea wash over her. This was exactly the kind of drama they had been trying to avoid. But why are you telling us this? Shouldn't you be talking to the police? Mrs. Finnegan sighed. I am, dear. But I also wanted you and your family to know, in case you're somehow caught up in all of this. I know you're innocent, but the last thing I want is for you to get dragged down with her. As Mrs. Finnegan turned to leave, Sarah felt a sense of dread settle in the pit of her stomach. The truth was starting to come out, and it was clear that the Jones family was going to be right in the middle of it all. The news of Martha's alleged embezzlement and the suspicious fire at her house quickly spread through the neighborhood, and the Jones family found themselves at the center of the growing scandal. This is exactly what I was afraid of, Sarah said, pacing back and forth in the living room. Now everyone's going to think we had something to do with this. Mike tried to reassure her. Honey, we've done nothing wrong. The police know that. As long as we cooperate fully, we have nothing to worry about. Ethan, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. But what if they don't see it that way? I mean, we were the ones who had our party shut down. And now it turns out the HOA president was crooked. That's got to look pretty suspicious, don't you think? Sarah shot him a stern look. Ethan, I thought we agreed not to speculate about this. We need to let the police do their job and stay out of it as much as possible. Just then, the doorbell rang, and Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. When she opened the door, she was surprised to find a middle-aged woman with a serious expression on her face. "Mrs. Jones," the woman asked, "I'm Detective Daniels with the local police department. I'd like to ask you a few more questions about the fire at Martha's house." Sarah felt a knot of dread forming in the pit of her stomach. "Of course, Detective. Please come in." As the detective stepped inside, Ethan and Mike joined them in the living room, all eyes focused on the stern-faced woman. "I'm sure you can understand that we're taking this investigation very seriously," Detective Daniels began. "We've uncovered some concerning information about the HOA's finances, and we're looking into the possibility of foul play in regards to the fire." Sarah felt her stomach twist with anxiety. "What kind of information?" The detective's expression darkened. "It seems that the HOA president, Martha, has been embezzling funds for her own personal use. We're looking into the possibility that the fire may have been an attempt to cover up her crimes." Ethan's eyes widened. "Wait, so do you think Martha did it? And you're looking at us as suspects?" Detective Daniels held up a hand. "We're not accusing anyone at this point, but we do need to follow up on any potential leads. Can you tell me again what you were doing on the night of the fire?" As the Jones family recounted their movements and alibis, Sarah couldn't help but feel a growing sense of dread. The noose was tightening, and it was becoming increasingly clear that they were going to be caught up in this mess, whether they liked it or not. When the detective finally left, Sarah turned to her husband and son, her face etched with worry. "This is bad, you guys. Really bad. We're not just witnesses in this anymore. We're suspects." The days that followed the detective's visit were a blur of anxiety and uncertainty for the Jones family. They found themselves under a microscope, with neighbors whispering and casting suspicious glances in their direction whenever they stepped outside. "I can't stand this," Sarah said, pacing the living room. "It's like we're trapped in our own home, waiting for the police to come and arrest us." Mike tried to reassure her, but even he couldn't hide the worry in his voice. "The detectives said they're not accusing us of anything. As long as we cooperate fully, we should be fine." Ethan, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. "But what if they do end up accusing us? I mean, think about it. We were the ones who had our party shut down, and now the HOA president's house is burned down. That's got to look pretty suspicious, even if we didn't do anything." Sarah shot him a sharp look. "Ethan, I told you, we can't start speculating like that. We need to let the police do their job and trust that the truth will come out." Just then, the doorbell rang, and Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. When she opened the door, she was surprised to find Mrs. Finnegan standing on the porch, a determined look on her face. "Mrs. Finnegan, what are you doing here?" Sarah asked, ushering the elderly woman inside. "I'm sorry to barge in like this, dear," Mrs. Finnegan said, her voice trembling. "But I've been thinking a lot about what I told you the other day, and I'm worried that I may have put you and your family in danger." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Finnegan sank into a chair, her hands shaking. "I should have gone straight to the police with what I knew about Martha's embezzlement. But I was worried that it might somehow implicate you, and I didn't want to cause any trouble." Ethan's eyes widened. "Wait, so you knew Martha was stealing money from the HOA, and you didn't tell the cops?" Mrs. Finnegan nodded, her face etched with guilt. "I'm so sorry. I was just trying to protect you, but I realize now that I may have made things worse." Mike reached out and grasped the elderly woman's hand. "It's not your fault, Mrs. Finnegan. You were trying to do the right thing. But now we need to focus on getting the truth out there and clearing our names. Sarah felt a surge of determination. That's right. We're not going to let Martha or anyone else drag us down with her. We're going to fight this, and we're going to win. As the Jones family gathered around Mrs. Finnegan, they knew that the road ahead was going to be a long and difficult one. But they were united in their determination to uncover the truth and restore their good name, no matter what it took. The Jones family knew they couldn't sit idly by and let the investigation run its course. With Mrs. Finnegan's help, they decided to take matters into their own hands and start digging for the truth. We need to find out as much as we can about Martha's embezzlement scheme, Mike said, his brow furrowed in concentration. If we can uncover the details and get that information to the police, it might help clear our name. Sarah nodded, her eyes filled with determination. Exactly. And we need to do it quickly, before the police decide to charge us with something we didn't do. Ethan, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. I say we start with the HOA's financial records. If Martha's been skimming money for years, there's got to be a paper trail somewhere. Mrs. Finnegan frowned. But won't that be difficult to get? I mean, the HOA is practically Martha's personal fiefdom. I doubt she'd let anyone else see those records. Mike's expression hardened. Then we'll have to get creative. Ethan, I want you to see if you can hack into the HOA's computer system and find those records. Sarah and I will start reaching out to the other neighbors, see if we can get them to cooperate. Sarah looked hesitant. Are you sure that's a good idea? I mean, won't that just make us look even more guilty? Mike grasped her hand, his eyes filled with determination. We don't have a choice, honey. If we want to clear our name, we've got to be willing to take some risks. Over the next few days, the Jones family went to work, their efforts fueled by a sense of urgency and a growing fear of what might happen if they didn't act quickly. Ethan spent hours poring over the HOA's network, searching for any signs of irregularities, while Sarah and Mike reached out to their neighbors, slowly building a coalition of support. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Ethan emerged from his room, his face flushed with triumph. I've got it, he exclaimed. I found the records, and they're worse than we thought. Martha's been embezzling thousands of dollars for years, funneling it into her own personal accounts. Sarah felt a mixture of relief and dread. Oh my God, Ethan, this is huge. We've got to get this information to the police right away. As the family prepared to take their evidence to the authorities, they couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. They knew that the stakes were high, and that they were putting everything on the line. But they also knew that they couldn't back down, not when the truth was finally within their grasp. The Jones family stood before the detective, their evidence neatly organized and ready to present. As they laid out the details of Martha's embezzlement scheme, the detective's expression slowly shifted from skepticism to shock. This is remarkable, Detective Daniels said, flipping through the documents. If what you're telling me is true, then Martha has been stealing tens of thousands of dollars from the HOA for years. Sarah nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. We know it's a lot to take in, but we have the financial records to prove it. Ethan was able to hack into the HOA's system and uncover the evidence. The detective's gaze shifted to Ethan, his brow furrowed. Son, I appreciate you going to such lengths to help clear your family's name, but hacking into a private system is a serious offense. Ethan swallowed hard, his palms sweating. I know, detective, but I had to do something. We were getting dragged into this whole thing, and we needed to find the truth. Detective Daniels held up a hand. I understand your motivation, but we'll have to discuss the legalities of your actions later. For now, I'm more concerned with the allegations against Martha. Mike stepped forward, his expression earnest. Detective, we know we're not the only ones who've been hurt by Martha's actions. Can you promise that you'll look into this thoroughly and bring her to justice? The detective nodded solemnly. Absolutely. This is a serious matter, and we'll make sure it's handled properly. I'll need to take all of this evidence back to the station and get my team started on a full investigation. As the detective gathered the documents, Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. Thank you, detective. We just want the truth to come out, and for everyone in the neighborhood to know that we had nothing to do with the fire. The detective paused, his expression softening. I understand, Mrs. Jones. From what I've seen here, it seems clear that you and your family have been victims in all of this. We'll do everything we can to make sure the real culprit is held accountable. As the Jones family watched the detective leave, they felt a sense of cautious optimism. The road ahead might still be long and difficult, but they finally had the upper hand. With the evidence in the police's hands, they knew that justice was within their grasp. In the weeks that followed, the investigation into Martha's embezzlement scheme and the suspicious fire at her house quickly gained momentum. The police had combed through the evidence provided by the Jones family, and they were now building a strong case against the disgraced HOA president. As the news of Martha's misdeeds spread through the neighborhood, the Jones family found themselves at the center of a remarkable turnaround. Neighbors who had once cast suspicious glances in their direction now approached them with apologies and expressions of gratitude. I can't believe we ever doubted you, Mrs. Finnegan said, her eyes glistening with tears. You and your family have done a great service to this community and will never be able to thank you enough. Sarah reached out and squeezed the elderly woman's hand. We're just glad the truth is finally coming to light. Martha's betrayal has hurt all of us, but at least now we can start to heal and move forward. Ethan, who had been uncharacteristically quiet during the ordeal, finally spoke up. Does this mean we can have our BBQ party again this year? I mean, it's the least the neighborhood can do after everything we've been through. Mike chuckled and ruffled his son's hair. I think that's a great idea, son. And this time, I bet the whole neighborhood will show up to support us. As the Jones family prepared for their annual BBQ, they couldn't help but reflect on the roller coaster of emotions they had experienced over the past few months. They had gone from the victims of a petty act of revenge to the heroes who had uncovered a massive corruption scandal. And through it all, they had remained steadfast in their determination to uncover the truth and clear their name. Now, as they welcomed their neighbors into their backyard, the Jones family felt a sense of pride and satisfaction. They had weathered the storm, and they had emerged stronger and more united than ever before. And as they gathered around the grill, the sound of laughter and conversation filling the air, they knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter, one that would be defined by the power of truth, justice, and community.